Welcome to the Benchwarmers podcast. I am Casey Coggins here with Alvin Hebert.
Back at it.
And Andrew Lara.
We here.
All right. Well, we took a little break, and I know when y'all listen to this, it'll be kind of a weird thing because I have slacked on getting these posted for y'all. But a lot has happened, and the Major League Baseball season has ended, and the Houston Astros are now your world champions.
Like I said, they was going to beat the Dodgers.
Alvin predicted it from the before the playoffs even started that the Astros were going to beat the Dodgers
in 7 games.
And I still think that he only picked the Astros because of his hatred. Or actually, he picked the Nationals to make it there, but he did pick the Astros to win it all. And then before the World Series started, he picked the Astros because I think he just didn't want to pick the Dodgers.
Damn right.
And, so, congrats to the Astros and the Houston people. It was well earned by a team that was very bad a few years ago. But now, with the NBA getting into the swing of things, we're almost a month into the season. Some teams look better than they expected to be. Some teams look a lot worse than they were expected to be.
Cavs.
The Cavs, yes. And so there's a lot to discuss with the NBA, especially with what happened last night and this morning. I didn't see it until Alvin, you texted us about Bledsoe going to the Bucks for Greg Monroe and picks.
First round pick.
Yeah, I think it's a first round pick that's protected and next year's second round pick. I saw that there were 2 picks in Greg Monroe and for Eric Bledsoe. And we were discussing not too long ago that when Eric Bledsoe put his tweet out to the world that the Bucks would be a great place to get him. And we were discussing who they would trade and how they would go about getting him. And they went and they made the move. They got Eric Bledsoe, who's going to help Malcolm Brogdon come about. He was, I think, Rookie of the Year last year, and he's a very good point guard, but they didn't really have... Matthew Dellavedova was their backup to him. And while he's a good backup to have and somebody who you can have on a championship team, as evidenced in Cleveland, you are now just a much better team getting Eric Bledsoe.
A better scoring team now. Like, you got somebody that can actually create their own offense other than...
break down the defense and all that. But, yeah, Greg Monroe was kind of jumbled in with Henson and Thon Maker and Antetokounmpo, and they have... And when Jabari Parker comes back, like, Greg Monroe they signed him, and it was a little bit of that LaMarcus Aldridge with the Spurs feeling is you sign this guy to be a certain thing, and then other players develop around him, and you realize that he doesn't fit the system that you are going to run now. Whereas LaMarcus has the ability to shoot out to the three-point line. Greg Monroe is bully ball. He's a Zach Randolph type player, and that doesn't fit with what the Bucks are trying to do.
I think he's a solid big man for sure. He plays his back to the basket, rebounds, block shots, which should helps the Suns out down there in the low post because they got no defense whatsoever. But yeah, I guess he just didn't fit in Milwaukee with all the young athletic talent that they got there. That's proven to be a lot better talent, I guess, than Monroe right now.
Yeah, and with Monroe, I don't know what's left on his contract, but I know that he signed that deal a couple years ago, and I want to say it was a 4-year deal, so he might even be opting out, like have an opt-out after this season. So it might just be get rid of Bledsoe and kind of cut your losses there, try to get a pick, and let Devin Booker and your other young guys develop even more without the drama with Eric Bledsoe being there. So, I think it was Bledsoe needed to get moved. the Suns obviously didn't want to keep him. They showed their hand early, and so it lessened the value that they could get for Eric Bledsoe. And the Bucks
showed their hand. Their hand got shown. I don't want to be here anymore.
but you can live with. Before we started this, we were talking about Rachel Nichols, and on the jump today, she brought up Kobe Bryant, who went on a radio show and went public with how he wanted out of LA.
Like when he was thinking about going to Chicago?
He wanted to get traded. He wanted out. He was very vocal about it. Eric Bledsoe just tweeted, "I don't want to be here." Like, if he wouldn't have made the whack-ass line about he was at a barber shop, if he would have come up with a better excuse as to why he said that, like tweeted that out, like you could get away with just saying, "I don't want to be here" on Twitter and being like, "Oh, well, this is why I tweeted it." But Kobe Bryant on a radio show, like, just bashed the Lakers and wanted to get rid of him, or wanted to get out of there.
Only thing about that is that radio shows then and tweeting now,
way different.
You get your tweet from your phone gets sent to the world. It reaches, your single tweet will reach further than a radio show.
I mean, even then, that was 2006, and the radio show gets heard locally, and then it gets broadcast nationally, and then that national broadcast, like, it still, moves. It was obviously league-wide that he wanted out. Like, it wasn't a secret that he wanted out. He voiced his opinion about wanting out. Eric Bledsoe never said, "I'm done with the Suns, I want out." He only tweeted, "I don't want to be here." And it kind of goes into the subtweeting thing about, the Arthur Fist and mood thing.
Oh, which did you also hear there's a theory behind LeBron's Arthur Fist meme, saying LeBron could have known about the Bledsoe trade last night.
Yeah, because they have the same agent. Rich Paul is both of their agents. So he knew about it, and, like, Eric Bledsoe makes the Bucks better, and the Cavs are playing the Bucks tonight.
Rich Paul, what are you doing?
And so there was that, and but that's what I'm saying, though, is that there's so many different layers to a tweet that you never know what the truth is, because it's somebody behind their phone or their laptop or their computer.
It's their burner account.
He should have just resorted to, "I was hacked."
It was my burner account. I thought I was on it. I'm sorry.
But what I was just trying to get to is, just because he said he didn't want to be there doesn't mean that they needed to trade him. What gave it away that they didn't want him is, after he said that, he didn't play for them again.
Oh, they sent him home.
They sent him home.
Yeah, they and so that was them showing their hand. That's why I said that, is they didn't, like, try to make it all hunky-dory and try to keep him playing and make him look better. That's one thing that the Spurs kind of had to deal with over the offseason with the LaMarcus Aldridge rumors, is LaMarcus Aldridge in that Warrior series and over the offseason, there was so much slander towards him that his trade value was 10 times worse than it is right now, with him averaging like 24 a game and 11 rebounds or whatever he's at.
Yeah, they couldn't even get the 5th round pick for LaMarcus Aldridge.
There is no 5th round pick.
Or the 5th pick in the 1st round.
Yeah. And so that was kind of LaMarcus had a bad trade value then. Like, you could have built up Bledsoe's trade value by just playing him.
Leaving him in.
Just tell him, like, look, we will trade you, but you're going to play and you're going to increase your trade value. Like, we can get you to a good team, but we're going to need pieces back. And there should have been some kind of Greg Monroe and picks. It's all right, but you're probably not going to have Greg Monroe long term.
He's a rental 1 year.
The pick might not be even in the top 20. So you don't know what you actually get out of this trade. In 2 years from now, you could have lost Eric Bledsoe for nothing. Like Kevin Durant and the Thunder. Like, you lost Kevin Durant for nothing because he signed. You didn't even get a sign and trade out of it. Like, Cleveland did when LeBron went to Miami, or Toronto did when Bosh went to Miami. There was no sign and trade there. So it's good for the Suns. You got rid of the head case in your locker room, and it's good for the Bucks because you get a very talented player who has something to prove, who has a chip on his shoulder. So that was, I think, it was a good trade for both teams essentially. And in the long run, it could be very bad for the Suns, but at this point in time, it was a good trade for the Suns. And staying in the Eastern Conference, but talking about actually how well a team is doing, the Celtics won again, 9 straight after their 0-2 start. Kyrie showed off his handles and his scoring prowess. And Jason Tatum's coming along swimmingly. Jaylen Brown is coming along swimmingly. Al Horford and Kyrie as a pick and pop tandem has been unstoppable these last 9 games. They look, at this moment in time, they look like the best team in the East and definite favorites to win the Eastern Conference, especially with how bad Cleveland looks right now. And that's with Cleveland not having Isaiah Thomas, I know, and Iman Shumpert is still hurt.
But do they really make that much of a difference?
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. So think of it this way:
Iman Shumpert will make a difference. I don't know.
Well, it's. Let's use the Spurs because we know the Spurs. When Kawhi comes back, you know what that does? That puts Kyle Anderson into his natural role off of the bench, playing with Patty and Manu and the bench guys, and it just changes changes the minutes, changes the roles, changes the scheme, changes how everything flows. So a team operates completely differently when one guy's hurt. The one team that I think can deal with it is Golden State, and it's because you lose Kevin Durant, you still have Steph, Clay, and Draymond in the bench unit, where it kind of can go seamlessly, where you can go from trying to spread the ball with Durant and Steph to now going back to what you were doing a couple years ago when Steph just blew up the world.
Well, I think that's different when a team has a set identity. But the Cavs don't have a set identity. That's
why I think it helps them so much. When Isaiah Thomas comes back, he's going to be your starting point guard. Now Derrick Rose slides to the bench. Iman Shumpert comes back, and he gives you a defensive presence, and their defense has been piss poor so far.
Wait, there's been a defense?
Exactly. He can even slide into a starting role, and it gives Ty Lue more flexibility with what to throw at teams. So if you're having a tough time and you're getting killed in the pick and roll, you can throw out LeBron, Jay Crowder, Kevin Love, Iman Shumpert, and whichever point guard you want. Or if you don't even want a point guard, you can keep LeBron as the point guard, which they've done, put D-Wade out there. Like, it gives them more flexibility with those guys. And Isaiah Thomas averaged 29 a game last season, and he's been a proven scorer at like 5'2" in the league. So it gives them more shooting because and this doesn't even bring into like J.R. Smith, where his role is, like his role changes, so you don't have to be dependent on his streaky shooting all the time. Like right now, they are depending on J.R. Smith to be an 18 a night guy. They need that production.
To me, I don't think shooting is their main problem. I just think it's effort and defense. And they were supposed to be a solid defensive team with Crowder, was even having Crowder there on the floor.
Well, they barely beat. Who did they beat last week when LeBron went for 57? Detroit.
That was against the Wizards.
Washington, yeah. They barely beat Washington with LeBron going for 57, and I think they only scored 100 something. So he had half of their points.
Yeah, but they're not even holding teams like to 90 something points. Like since the end of last year, their whole entire defense has just been trash.
Yeah, I mean their defense has been bad. That's what I was saying. But I also think that a lot of it comes from their offense not being very good either. Like LeBron's having one of his best offensive seasons, and their offense still doesn't look right. And it's
like there's no communication on the floor.
It's one thing when you're making baskets, teams are having to take the ball out of their own basket. You can get kind of set up defensively, and even that doesn't help necessarily with them, but it makes things easier defensively when you're making shots. When you're missing shots and turning the ball over, your defense is going to be bad. No matter who you're playing, turning the ball over and missing shots is going to make your defense look bad, because you're going to have to continuously run and transition, and teams are going to get easy looks, and your defense isn't going to be set up. So there's going to be the lack of communication. There are going to be defensive breakdowns where now you have your center guarding their point guard. And it just makes for bad defense when you're turning the ball over and missing shots. So I think I think the Cavs still have a talented roster. There's kind of the weird Dwayne Wade fit, and he's played really well
off the bench.
Yeah, off the bench, he's played really well, but. Like he doesn't really shoot from three, and he's not as great of a defender as he once was. So we'll see how it all plays out. But I think it's no cause for concern with the Cavs. They're going to right the ship. LeBron's probably just going to have a higher workload here in the first couple months than they wanted to give him. Whereas, and then they will give him a 2-week off break for
he's gonna take the month of February off.
He's gonna put in vacation time.
No, he'll take the month of January off, because then he'll come back for the All-Star game and be a captain on the All-Star team and get to pick his team.
It's gonna be the only game he plays in February is the All-Star game.
He's gonna be like, here's my PTO.
But that's what has to happen for the Cavs is get as many wins as possible right now. Like find a way to win, because right now your team is discombobulated. And when Isaiah Thomas finally comes back and Iman Shumpert comes back, and you can kind of get rotations into proper places, I think the Cavs will roll off 12 to 15 wins in a row.
I don't know. Because Isaiah Thomas is still a liability on defense.
All right, Alvin, I'm just not a hater. All right? There's only one team I hate in the league, and it's Golden State. And it's not because I think I just don't like Golden State, because I'm a Spurs fan.
See, but yours is just you just dislike Golden State. Me, I'm just like,
he dislikes LeBron.
They suck on defense. They suck on defense, and Isaiah Thomas sucks on defense too. Like they're just going to come outscore.
Exactly, you're gonna have to outscore your opponent.
And we don't know how he's gonna look like coming back off his hip injury too. Like a lot of variables.
But at the same time, LeBron's gonna have less of a workload, so
yeah, he's
not gonna have to put up 50 points to fucking win a game. He could put Isaiah Thomas put up 30, and they split it 30-30, and it's cool. And everyone's happy about it.
Is he still gonna be that Isaiah Thomas coming back from the hip injury though?
Yeah.
One of the things that won't change, and Alvin, I believe you've played enough basketball to know this.
Yes.
A shooter will always be able to shoot the damn ball.
Last thing to go.
Doesn't matter what. You look at videos of 78-year-old men who can't jump, they can't dribble, they can't rebound, but they will sit at that free throw line and nail 200 in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So Isaiah Thomas.
All I know is also when you play basketball, when this half of your body goes, I'm talking about from the hip down.
Yeah, when your legs go, your shots go, and that's
Exactly.
one of the things. That's why there's the old adage
It's all in the hips. It's all in the hips, man.
you live and die you live and die by the three, because eventually, if the three ball's not going in, or they tire you out and your legs go, you're not going to have the same shot.
Exactly. That's what happened with Derrick Rose.
But I think
No, that was his knees blew up
Isaiah
multiple times.
Thomas is a professional basketball player, and it goes to my thoughts on professional football players and professional baseball players. They are professionals. They do this for a living, and they get to practice it, and they get to practice it every day, and they get to play in games, and they get to hone their craft. And if his hip doesn't feel right, he's not the same Isaiah Thomas as he was last year. You know what he gets to figure out? What he can adjust. All right, well, I can't get into the lane like I did and take these hits because I'm going to get hurt. So now he gets to be more of a shooting guard than a point guard. He doesn't have to run pick and rolls and run into the big men. He can give LeBron the ball, and he can run off a screen and catch and shoot, because he is a great shooter.
All I gotta say is I wish Derrick Rose thought about that years ago when he first injured his
There's a big difference. Derrick Rose, his whole game was predicated on the Iverson mentality, the getting into the lane and jumping into people and being great around the basket. So when that went, he had to learn how to shoot jump shots. Isaiah Thomas has that. He doesn't need to learn how to shoot a jump shot. He has the jump shot. He can just now focus on it more. Like if Steph gets hurt again, like his jump shot's not going to leave. He's still going to be a great shooter. He's still going to have a weapon to score in this league. He might not be able to get into the paint and throw these super ridiculous teardrops like he did in pre-games last night. But he'll still have a skill set. And Isaiah Thomas will still have the skill set, even though he might not be the same Isaiah Thomas. And so I think the Cavs, and I know we're probably going to come back to them a little bit later.
Yes.
But I think there's no need to worry with them. But I just brought up Steph, and that's another thing that I've noticed about this season so far. Is Golden State, they don't look great right now.
Even though they're 8-3?
8-3. They don't look like they're great right now. They've had to battle through some games.
They've had to play in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I know. And so that's kind of the crazy thing. Is like that was one of my bold predictions, lock of the week, is that they were going to end up being like a 500 or worse team come last Tuesday. And they were kind of getting demolished by the Wizards. I think they were down 15 when Bradley Beal got ejected.
Yeah, it was like 18, 15 points.
Yeah, and it was, third quarter, I think. It was in the second half, and
Sounds real familiar.
Bradley Beal got ejected, and they came back and won that game. They lost to the Pistons. It was a tough game for a little while last night against Miami, and then they end up winning by 17. And you're like, what? Where did this come from? And that's just kind of like, I feel like that's how it's going to be this season. Is Golden State looks disinterested
In the regular season, they're like, why we're playing this?
Yeah,
They look human.
It's not even they because they don't look human. That's the thing. Is if they looked human, you would be like, oh well, they could possibly be beat in the playoffs. Like that they look like they don't care as much, and so it's that they're going to flip the switch, and all of a sudden they're going to roll off wins, and not just wins but blowouts where Steph doesn't play and Klay doesn't play and Kevin doesn't play for like the entire second half.
The whole starting five is just on the bench.
Yeah. It's scary to see that they're coasting to an 8-3 record right now, and they don't look like they have yet to care about the regular season.
Man, you saw I just realized everybody was like mad that they shoot a whole bunch of threes and stuff last year, and also they picked up Nick Young and Omar Caspi on the off season.
Yeah,
those are other two real good 3-point shooters that are just gonna be jacking it up.
Yeah, Omri Caspi and Nick Young are
who's Nick Young?
Swaggy P.
Oh, Swaggy P. Why y'all calling by his government name and shit? That's Swaggy P.
When Steph had his unanimous MVP season, that was one of my biggest critiques. Was everybody's like, "Oh my God, he made 400 threes in a season." And I'm like, "Oh my God, he almost shot 1,000 threes in a season." When you're that great of a shooter, imagine Reggie Miller or Ray Allen, the other two prominent 3-point shooters of the last 30 years. Imagine if they were to shoot 1,000 3-pointers in a season. They would probably make 400 threes in a season. And it's more about how he did it in the way he went about it. Because, he was shooting from 30 feet. But he kind of...
From the logo.
Yeah, seriously. You have to guard him as soon as he passes that half court line.
And it's something that he's worked on. He practices. But to go along with the 3-point shooting, Houston, that's all they do. Yeah. Layups, free throws, and 3-point shots. If you shoot a mid-range jumper, you're traded the next day. I haven't seen Eric Gordon shoot a mid-range jump shot since he was with Indiana.
Well, they're talking about trading, what's their center's name?
Clint Capella?
Yeah, he was in trade rumors earlier in the month.
Oh, I didn't hear any of that, but...
Earlier in the month, man. It's the 7th. This is early in the month.
That's kind of the way that it is, and we've talked about the Bucks, and they might not have great shooters and stuff, but they have athletic, lanky players that can clog up lanes and the passing lanes, and they can contest threes. So they might not be jacking up 5,000 3-pointers in a season, but they don't need to. And that's kind of the weird transition in the NBA we're at, is because the Bucks are the old school style with the new school player. They have a guy who is 6'11" with a 9,000 foot wingspan,
who can run point,
who can take one dribble from half court and dunk the ball, who can pass, who can block shots, who can rebound. He's like Kevin Durant minus the silky smooth jump shot. They have a smart point guard who's 6'6" and can pass the ball and can shoot threes well. They have Thon Maker, who's 7'3", who's kind of the Kristaps Porzingis player, just without the ball handling ability. So that the Bucks are the counter to what Houston and Golden State are doing with just a bunch of 3-point shooters. They're we might not be able to outshoot you, but we'll at least make these shots difficult for you.
They'll keep it a close game at least, or try to.
And there's there's a reason why I went back to the Bucks, because we were gonna do our way too early MVP votes, and I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that one of y'all put the Greek Freak as y'all's MVP. So
Alvin's just nodding his head.
Yeah. So Alvin, who's your MVP? Who will be your MVP at the end of the season from this moment?
From this moment, I still have him in the lead. The Greek Freak as my number one early MVP, just because without Bledsoe, he's doing everything. Now, when Bledsoe comes in, see how his role changes on offense and stuff like that, but he's still putting up 30-plus points, still averaging double digits in rebounds. He's still blocking shots. He's everywhere on the court for the Bucks, and he's keeping them well in the middle of where we predicted the Bucks would be in the East.
I think they're the third they're 5. Yeah,
I think they're 5, and I think that's where we have them at. But I think if he keeps them there, threshold from 4 seed, 5th seed, like.
I mean, Russell Westbrook last year kind of broke the mold with an MVP. You know, your MVP normally came from, you know,
The best player on the best team.
yeah, and that's not, you know, it's most valuable player. Who creates the most value? Steph doesn't create the most value on that team. And he didn't when he won MVPs. Like, I think he's a great player, and, you know, he's their second best player, but the valuable players on that team are Draymond and Kevin Durant.
And Klay Thompson, you could say, because that perimeter defense he puts on.
Yeah, like, but like that would go kind of either way. As Klay has the defensive side, whereas Steph has, you know, the ball handling ability and the shot creating. But as far as MVP goes, yeah, it's always been, you know, the LeBron Jameses and the Kevin Durants and the Derrick Rose and Steph and Michael and Tim and Steve Nash, the best players on the 1 or 2 seed. But they changed that last year with having Westbrook win it, even though they were, the 6th seed?
6, I think, yeah.
They were 5 or 6.
They were 6 because they played the Rockets in the first round. Yeah. And so you can see that going forward, your MVP might actually be an MVP, the obvious most valuable player.
Because, I mean, if you take Greek Freak off of the Bucks, even in the East, you think they're going to be a playoff team?
No.
Exactly.
So, on to Andrew.
My early MVP vote goes to LeBron James.
LeBron James.
I mean, he's still doing it all.
Yeah.
And just the other night with that 57-point game, I mean, at being, 35 years old? How old is he?
He's 33.
33? Okay. So he's still his body's about 50, but
15 years.
His hairline's about 72.
Who's counting? Yeah, I give my early MVP vote would go to LeBron James.
Yeah, I mean, I just said I think Cleveland's going to right the ship coming up soon, and they could, you know, coast their way to a 2 seed at least in the East. But my way too early MVP is Damian Lillard. He is
Lillard time.
He is the most clutch player in the league right now. He has the most clutch points and the highest clutch field goal percentage out of people who have had enough shots in that time.
That game-winning 3-point shot against the Lakers is what you're talking about?
He also had one just last night, I think. And he's just, that team is carried by him. CJ's a good 2-player.
He's a DJ though.
And Nurkic is a very good center to have, and they have good pieces. But the way that Damian Lillard has been playing, and I see it continuing to play just because of how the style of basketball is right now. Like, they could be a 5 seed with the team that they have, and again, way too early MVP. Everything's a logjam in the West right now. Eventually, some teams are going to just fall out, and some players are unfortunately going to get hurt.
It's a long season.
Damian Lillard might average 26 and 10.
That's similar to my Greek Freak pick.
And so it's
without Lillard in Portland, they're a trash team.
That they are probably the second worst team in the league, because Dallas has that title very clearly.
Dallas still has a team.
They're 1-10 right now. But yeah, Damian Lillard is going to get his numbers. Portland's going to I think look relatively good for the rest of the season, and I think they might end up getting the 5 or 6 seed. And his numbers might not be triple doubles, but I see him being able to have that MVP caliber season. So he's my way too early MVP, and I think that goes over the little bit of NBA talk we wanted to do this week. because there is a lot going on. The NBA has so much going on at all times. I think it's the best sports league in the United States.
Storylines every day.
Best sports league in the world, and in the drama between players and coaches and GMs and owners and just all the stuff that goes on with the NBA. I think there's always so many things to talk about. But going to another league that there's always something to talk about, good and bad. The NFL, it's a madhouse right now, I feel. You have AJ Green, who's always calm and collected, throwing punches at Jalen Ramsey.
He went GSP.
You have Mike Evans. You have Jameis Winston coming off the field and poking a player in the back of the head, and then getting pushed, so his star wide receiver comes from like across the field and blows up this guy in the back.
Freaking bullet just.
You still have the Zeke thing going on, the owner stuff, the protests. One thing I wanted to discuss was the Bill O'Brien soundbite. Bill O'Brien, head coach of the Houston Texans, is asked about Colin Kaepernick, and he says he's a very good player. He hasn't played football in a while. And the very next day goes and signs a backup quarterback who hasn't thrown a pass in 6 seasons. Now, he played in the preseason and he was in training camp, but he hasn't thrown a professional pass in a regular season in 6 years.
And he's one of those journeyman backup quarterbacks too that could never.
I'm pretty sure he was a starter after Vic left in Virginia Tech.
He had a chance to be a starter in Seattle when they got Russell Wilson. And,
he was Matt Flynn. Yeah, he was fighting out. Yeah, I just don't. I still, for the life of me, won't understand how. I mean, I wasn't big on Colin Kaepernick. I'm still not the biggest fan of him as a quarterback. Like, I don't think he's as great as people thought he was when he led the 49ers to the Super Bowl. But he is obviously better than some of these backups. He's obviously better than some of these starters. You know who could probably use a guy like him on their team? The Green Bay Packers, who with Brett Hundley, who Mike McCarthy loves. They scored 10 points, I think. 17? Oh, they threw up that last second touchdown. But they got blown out by the Lions. And, some of that was on the Packers' defense, but the defense gets helped out by the offense. Again, the NFL football is the ultimate team game. If your defense creates stops, your offense is going to get the ball more. If your offense can create drives, it's going to help your defense look better. Case in point, the Dallas Cowboys beating the Chiefs. The Chiefs are a better football team than the Dallas Cowboys. The reason why the Cowboys beat them by 11 is...
They need the wins to go to the Super Bowl.
The reason why Dallas beats Kansas City is because they can control the tempo, control the ball. They can run the ball. I think Zeke ended up having like 90 yards.
Man, whenever they needed yards, they got them.
Yeah, and so it makes their defense look better because their defense is fresh. The Super Bowl. Atlanta wins that Super Bowl if their offense can just maintain drives in the second half. The defense gets tired. Patriots start storming down the field. The Packers need a quarterback who can win on third down, who can create plays. Brett Hundley isn't as good as Colin Kaepernick in that. Like, there are many other teams that could use Colin Kaepernick. And the fact that Bill O'Brien came out saying that he's a good football player, but he hasn't played in a while, but then goes and signs a guy. Like, it would be different if he signed, like, Robert Griffin. Like, if he signed RG3, who played last year in the NFL, he's injury prone, but he's played in the NFL last season. If he signed anybody else who was in the league last year, that would be different. But he signed a guy who hasn't thrown a pass in a regular season game in 6 years.
Makes perfect sense. But I mean, like, you look at the teams that actually need a quarterback, and they're not going out and picking up Kaepernick. I know it's like now it's halfway through the season, so why even bother? But if you look at teams like the Cleveland Browns with the merry-go-round that they got going on with their quarterback situation, Miami Dolphins when Cutler went down, and Matt Moore, I mean, he's been a solid backup quarterback, but look what he did.
Yeah, and then Tampa Bay, they have Brian Fitzpatrick, who led the league in interceptions last season.
And he was a starter for the Jets for like that whole entire season. Like,
yeah. It's ridiculous, but that's just, that happened yesterday and today, and I don't understand the rationale behind why teams won't just give him a chance, and people are like, oh, well, you don't want the media attention. It's the NFL. There's always going to be media attention.
But he even said that he wouldn't be kneeling down.
But I don't like this.
If he was to play for a team now.
To me, this isn't a kneeling or standing for the national anthem thing.
I think that's what it causes it.
But it's the cause of it. But like that should not be the point anymore. The point should be that you are adults. Like Colin Kaepernick is 28, 29 years old, and these owners are 75-year-old old white men. And you have GMs and coaches who are like 30s, 40s, 50s. Like, we're all adults here. We can sit down and have a conversation. A GM can say, look, Colin, we want to sign you to be our backup quarterback, but we can't have you kneeling for the national anthem. And if Colin Kaepernick is serious about being in the NFL, he will say, okay. If not, if he's like, no, if you sign me, I'm still kneeling, then that's on him now. But that story doesn't get talked about like that because
he's had that conversation already.
We'll see. Like
the whole Ray Lewis situation, it came up. You were gonna get signed, but it wasn't you that ruined it. It was
your girlfriend.
Yeah, I mean, tell me who your friends are. I'll tell you who you are. Your girlfriend just cost you a job.
Yeah. So it's
the fact that you kept her around after that so she can ruin another deal where you said, oh, I'll stand. You made it public saying that you would stand for the national anthem, but then she goes again, but on Twitter again saying, no, he's not.
But it also went to like even, and then he backed her up because he was like, oh no, I never said that.
So I mean, there's that right there.
But
you can't fight that.
I didn't want to make it about like Colin Kaepernick and the kneeling thing, but it is a media circus. You don't want a media circus. The Dallas Cowboys thrive in a media circus. They are the media circus. You're in the NFL. You're going to have media attention around you. It's Twitter and Facebook live and live streaming everywhere, and everything is known by everybody, it seems, and it's just media technology has helped the media grow so vastly that a media circus is kind of an oxymoron now because it is always going to be a circus because of how quickly information spreads.
They don't have elephants?
No, but they will have a bear standing on a ball. They will have.
That's quintessential.
They'll bring out the bearded lady.
Well, I was thinking of, an actual bear football player standing on the football.
That's racist.
What?
And another thing with the NFL is I don't think that there is a consensus great team. I still think that the Eagles are overrated, even though they just put up 51 on the Broncos.
It's the Broncos, and the Broncos hasn't been what they used to be a couple years ago.
I just said their offense can't help their defense, so their defense gets put into such a terrible position. Carson Wentz threw 4 touchdowns on 195 yards passing. The Patriots still look like they're figuring things out. The Chiefs have come back down to earth. The Steelers are starting to look better, but you never know when the wheels are going to fall off there. The Packers lost their quarterback. The Texans lost their quarterback. The Titans' quarterback is banged up. There's so many teams that you would think are playoff and championship contenders that you just never know. We still have another 7 games to play for each team.
Now, the Eagles have a really easy schedule.
They have had a relatively easy schedule. You know who they haven't played yet this season?
Cowboys.
The Cowboys. I think they're like 2-0 in their division right now. They beat
one of those teams hasn't won. Oh no, they won a game. They've won a game.
Yeah, they're 1-7, and so I think the NFL it has there's a lot of parity that can go on right now.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have a team that's just running through and it looks completely dominant. And I think that's good for the NFL, but it's also bad for the NFL when you have just ugly football.
Well, I hope Teddy Bridgewater comes back healthy with the Vikings, though.
I do hope that he comes back healthy. They have Sam Bradford, and when Teddy Bridgewater comes back, like what's going to happen there? Because I'm a believer in that you shouldn't lose your job due to injury. So, are you going to try to put him back in the lineup if Sam Bradford's healthy? Like, how do you go about that quarterback situation? Do you try to trade one of the guys and get some value for him? So we'll see. We'll see how that goes when he comes back. But I think that does it for the NFL this week because there's a lot of season left, and I still feel like there's no clear cut team that
sticks out.
Yeah, it's kind of a clusterfuck, one might say. But that leads us to our podcast ending segments of Hot Not Lock,
Sloppy Toppy,
Sloppy Toppy, Sloppy Toppy Floppy. Again, we're still.
I wonder how many people are going to actually get that.
we're still brainstorming about
or how they're going to think of it. Yeah. Hey,
yeah.
About the actual name we want to end up using in this, but we need a winner, we need a loser, we need some bold predictions. So I'm gonna go with my hot of the week is. I was going to make it a player, but I figured I might as well make it the team, the Houston Astros, winning the World Series, their first one in franchise history. I was going to make it Carlos Correa, but then I was like, oh, well, George Springer and Justin Verlander and all the other guys on that team. Carlos Correa proposing to his girlfriend after they won the World Series, and George Springer being the MVP and also the cover athlete on the Sports Illustrated magazine that predicted that they would win this World Series 3 years ago. Jose Altuve is going to be the AL MVP. Justin Verlander got traded mid-season. Not even mid-season. Three. It was after the deadline. It's one of those weird rules.
Yeah,
they have a deadline at July 31st, and then they have another deadline on August 31st. And so he got traded the very last second that a player could get moved. And he ends up winning a World Series. Houston going through, the hurricane issues and the flood, and it happened to be, I think, the day before Deshaun Watson tore his ACL. So it kind of alleviated some of the traumatic football loss that Houston fans had to go through this last week. So for me, I think anytime a champion is crowned, they'll probably land in this spot because they obviously won the week because they are now the kings of baseball, and we'll see what they do next season. Andrew, who you got on that hot line?
I went with Houston as well. But not talking the Astros. I'm talking of the actual city of Houston to overcome the hurricane and also just and rallying behind that Astros team. And no one really thought they could make it, or no one thought they could win it. And sure enough, they took that in 7, and Houston was behind them. Houston, it felt like all of Texas was just on fire and not in the summertime.
Me and Sports Illustrated thought they was going to win it, okay?
I mean,
you didn't think they was going to make it.
I had them making it.
Yeah, he had them making it, and he had them beating the Nationals. He picked them.
That's right. Because you just didn't want the Dodgers. You were going just completely against the Dodgers.
Damn right.
Yeah. But I mean,
we still called it luck.
Before the season started, I think they were kind of a hot commodity to pick as a World Series favorite because of the talent that they had, and they came out guns a-blazing, and they were the best team. The two best teams throughout the year played in the World Series. They were obviously the two best teams throughout the season. They didn't have to ride some ridiculous hot streak to make it to the playoffs.
Is that a shot at Cleveland?
That is definitely a shot at Cleveland. The Astros were a good pick to make it the playoffs, and they were kind of they weren't the. Cleveland was picked at the beginning of the season to make the World Series, and a lot of teams picked them. People picked them to make the World Series when playoffs started. None of us did. We all picked the Astros to make it out of the AL. But I don't know if y'all saw the video of the championship parade that was going on where somebody dropped their hat off of the side of the parking garage and they took level by level
threw it up to the person who dropped it. It was such an awesome video. I think Houston should win it just because of that. And Alvin, your pick.
So my hot, I have to say, again, it's not just one person, it's a collective. The Cowboys D-line for...
Minus Taco Charlton because he has 5 tackles on the season.
Yeah, minus him, but...
he got his first sack, though.
Everybody on that D-line, they're actually putting pressure on the quarterback, which they lead the NFC in sacks and pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So I'm like... Finally,
Cowboys have a defense.
Well,
it's not just Sean Lee and
their defensive line was their best part of their defense because they have Irving and Tank Lawrence, and they had.
It was just Rod Marinelli not wanting to put pressure on the quarterback.
Yeah, but now they actually got schemes. You see the front schemes,
they have
stunts and stuff they're doing
Jalen
now.
Smith, and they have Sean Lee's healthy, and they have a full personnel,
and it's allowing the secondary to play a lot better. Like Byron Jones, like he's coming up with important picks and like. Breaking up passes, like, because now you got pressure on the quarterback.
Byron Jones might end up being like the best cover or best nickel corner in the league just because of his athletic ability and his size. Like he's like 6'2" or 6'3", and he had that ridiculous broad jump and long jump at the combine, and he runs like a 4.4, 4.5 40. So, and he has like a 42-inch vertical. He's a freak athlete,
But I mean, we haven't had this, like, it hasn't been like this on the defensive front since DeMarcus Ware left.
Oh, like, absolutely.
Our defense wasn't known about getting picks or sacks. It was just like we got key stops when we needed it. Now they're actually getting stops while getting sacks, applying pressure on the quarterbacks. Like,
yeah,
it's great.
It's amazing how far that kind of play goes. When you can get pressure on the quarterback and make them throw the ball just a half second early.
You saw what they did with Alex Smith. Like, they were stopping the run. Like, Kareem Hunt only had, 40 yards or something like that.
He had his worst game of the season.
Yeah, and besides that one Hail Mary play to Tyreek Hill at the end of the half, like, they had Alex Smith shut down the whole entire game.
Yeah. Now, who do you have, or what do you have as your flop of the week, your not of the week, or your slop of the week?
my slop of the week. I hate to have to go back to it, but it's Lonzo Ball, and it's not of his stats or anything like that. I just feel like his gameplay has been super passive. Like, if you see him, like, he's not playing aggressive. He's not even passive aggressive. He's just there.
Passive.
He's just there. And
Not
then,
even
like,
passive, because he only had like 4 assists the other day. So with Lonzo, you didn't know who he was and how, like, with guys like that who are so hyped, like LeBron James, and nowhere near the same type of talent, but think about the hype that comes behind him. Like, when you get to the NBA, now you're being completely criticized about everything you do. And now, on top of that, you're getting criticized about what your dad says, and you're getting criticized about all the different things. Like, this is the first time I think he's ever been such a major, like, center point of criticism. Because at UCLA last year, he got
no criticism.
Well, he had one of the Holiday guys. I can't think of the first name.
Until the tournament.
They had TJ Leaf, and they had a really good team at UCLA. That I think I even had them in when I did my bracket. I had them in the championship in the Final Four. Because they had a really good team, and then he gets just destroyed by De'Aaron Fox, and then he starts getting criticized. But that criticism was only going to last because he was going to get drafted into the NBA, and he got drafted number 2 ahead of the guy who dominated him. Mm-hmm. So there's one point. There's one point of criticism. He got drafted by his hometown team. There's another point of criticism.
Which I feel they were forced into doing.
And so there's so many points that will, like, allow him to be criticized, that while he is kind of that, like, nonchalant, like, nothing gets to me, like, Patrick Beverley in game 1 hounded him. Like, you could look on his face. He wasn't worried about that. He just kind of had to adapt to the speed and the physicality of the game.
See, but that's why he's.
But yeah, and that's what you're alluding to is like, now it looks like everything's getting to him in the NBA.
Well, you even look at the last game that they had, the timeouts. He's nowhere in the huddle. He's sitting at the end of the bench. His teammates are not talking to him, like, during timeouts or anything like that. He's just, like, off on his own island.
It seems like there's something is getting to him, but he's not going to go out. He's not going to say it, and you're not going to find out what it is. It's something that he has to work through.
Like, I want to see him, like, bark at somebody. Even if you are a little chihuahua, little chihuahuas bark all the fucking time. Like, do something. Show some emotion. Because the stats, I'm not surprised by that. I said it before to, like, all my cousins and stuff, like, his shot sucks. He's not going to be a good shooter in the NBA, which he's only shooting 30%. And the only thing that's saving him is that he could rebound and he could pass the ball, of course.
Yeah, I mean,
and his defense sucks also.
He has the intangibles. I think for him, he will become a very, very good point guard in this league, and I can see him being an all-star in this league.
I don't know about an all-star. I think he could become a solid point guard, like a Jason Kidd was. But it's not going to be with the Lakers.
Well, yeah,
I don't see it being with the Lakers.
I thought D'Angelo Russell was going to be a stud point guard in this league, and the Lakers just didn't really develop him very much. It seemed like there was always a disconnect between him and the team and
he even mentioned that too when Magic Johnson came in. He said it was very dismissive and disrespectful, like Holiday.
And then he's going and tearing it up for Brooklyn right now.
Yeah.
So we'll see how the Lonzo trilogy unfolds. So Andrew, you're up next.
Sloppy.
Who's your sloppy?
Well, I've been with Lonzo. I'm gonna keep it in the Ball family, but LeVar, man, you gotta get your boys. You're paying so much attention to the older and the younger, but you're not getting your middle child. Come on, man. You can't have LiAngelo getting arrested in China for shoplifting.
Man,
he has an international record.
It's funny that we all land on the Ball family because I put LeVar too.
It's just so easy.
It's because it goes to what Alvin was saying about Lonzo. Like your golden boy is now. He looks like he doesn't want to be in the NBA. He looks like he doesn't know what he's going to do. And their best rookie is Kyle Kuzma.
Yeah,
Team Kuzma.
And brought to you by Tecate. But yeah, like that again. I put LeVar Ball too because of the LiAngelo Ball stuff.
They just make it so easy though. They make it easy.
When you want to be in the spotlight, you got to take the good and the bad, and this is one of those bads.
So, I have come around more and more on the college athletes needing to get paid. They need to get some kind of stipend. That's one thing, but you are in another country. In one of the harshest countries to be in.
Communist China.
China has very, 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 very strict rules and laws and punishment. And you go over there and you shoplift. And like I read today that their punishment for drug dealers is the death penalty. If you deal drugs, it's the death penalty. What is going through your head? And it kind of like...
What are you shoplifting for? You bought a freaking Lambo.
Yeah.
on their Ball family show. He bought a freaking Lambo.
You actually watched that?
No, it's on Facebook Live. You see the clips.
It's
on Facebook Live, so you see the clips.
I didn't know they started showing it.
He bought a Lambo. That's what I'm getting at. He bought a Lambo and then he shoplifted in China. Like,
don't make fun of me for watching it. He bought a Lambo.
Alvin,
just get away from the fact that I saw the clip. All right, he bought a Lambo.
You're being cast off the podcast for admitting to us that you watched.
It's been decided.
Saw the clip on Facebook. All right,
but yeah, like. The Ball family has money. Your older brother has money. My older brother, he has an engineering job. He makes decent money. Like if I need him to buy me some shoes or a laptop or something, your brother will give you money. That's kind of what part of being in like such a close-knit family is about.
Yeah.
There are some families who aren't tight like that, who's like you ask for your brother for $5 and he punches you in the face and takes your money.
That sounds like Andrew.
Man, I don't know what you're talking about.
To me, with LiAngelo doing that, with all the crap that Lonzo like looks like he's going through, like I kind of feel like this all falls on the dad in the role, the fatherly figure who raised these kids. And I don't want to say that he's a bad dad because I don't think he actually is, because those kids love him, they love each other,
he supports them,
they push each other and they support each other. But he doesn't. I don't think he pushed. He didn't give them a reality check. Like at some point, you need a reality check, and I think Lonzo is realizing that now.
It's hard for him to give him a reality check when he hasn't gotten his yet.
Yeah, he's still mouthing off to the coach and Magic Johnson saying like, "I want my son to play the whole entire fourth quarter." For what? He can't even last like 3.5 quarters. He gets tired so easily.
Yeah,
he has no stamina build up whatsoever.
You're telling a 19, 20-year-old, hey, you're about to play 82 games. Let's play you 42 minutes a night. No, I don't know. I should have looked up the numbers. I wonder what the most minutes a rookie has ever played per game in the season, because I feel like 35 might be
generous.
To be honest, I think that's probably owned by LeBron James.
Yeah, or Kevin Durant maybe with Seattle.
Yeah.
So it's kind of The Ball family is just a mess, and I mean it makes for good entertainment. And
I love it.
I'm not.
That why you watch it?
I'm not gonna get on Facebook and watch it. But
you know, you go on Facebook, you're scrolling through the news feed.
You just having a ball. You having a ball with the balls.
You know, sometimes I wake up in the morning feeling like a big baller, so I gotta watch them on Facebook Live.
Gotta see how real ballers live.
We eat cereal together. It's cool.
As always, let's end on our locks for the week. Alvin, I'll let you lead this one off again.
My lock is by next week Tuesday. Well, I thought the Cavs were going to be 5-12, but they just beat the Bucks tonight. So
6-11.
6-11. I think they'll be 6-11,
They're gonna win one game in a week.
and that's against the Mavericks.
Oh, you mean? Oh, was that their 5th win tonight?
Yeah. He thinks they're gonna win one game in the next week.
Because they play the Mavericks. Their next game is against the Rockets. They also got the Clippers coming up. They got the Detroit Pistons again. I forgot who else was on that list. The New York Knicks again. And the Charlotte Hornets. And I know how the way they've been playing against the lower end teams, they've been getting smashed on. But I think Detroit Pistons is an actual legit good team right now.
I think they're the second best team in the East right now, and they look really good. But I don't think that that's going to be the case. I would bet money on them only losing one game, not only winning one game.
Only losing one.
Like I said, I think they're going to right the ship sooner than
I think
most
they
people
are.
think.
I think they eventually will, but I'm just saying, like, right now, the concerns that they're having, I think they're actual real concerns that they gotta fix.
Yeah, they definitely need to fix them. But again, like I said, I think they'll fix them sooner rather than later. Sooner than most people would say. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, we'll give them another month. I would say they probably right the ship here in the next week or two. So, Andrew, what do you have as your lock?
Bringing it to the NFL, I've got the 49ers finally putting a tally in that win column against the Giants.
Beating a 1-win team.
Hey, man.
You know,
now's your chance.
You know,
Is Garoppolo going to play? I think that's going to be the deciding factor.
Yeah, it's going to decide.
There was, I believe just a couple weeks ago, you had the 49ers getting their first win against the Eagles.
Yeah,
as
that didn't turn out so
your
good.
lock and bold pick. And yeah, I mean, they're in San Francisco. If they start Jimmy G, then they might have a chance. We'll see how it goes. I mean, they're playing the Giants, so I think it's closer to a 50-50 shot that they would get it. My lock of the week, I went to college football. I'm looking at the games, looking at what's going on this weekend, and there's a pretty big game going on between the Catholics and the Convicts.
Penn State and the U?
The U and Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, my bad.
Notre Dame, 3 in the country. I think I saw they're 8-1, I believe, against undefeated 8-0, number 7 in the country. The U. I have Miami remaining unbeaten.
Air high five you on that, bro. That's my squad right there.
Miami hasn't really played fantastic football lately, but I mean, and Notre Dame has had some impressive victories.
Like against USC.
But Miami's in Miami, and I think they have the defense. It could be like a 10-0 game. Like, this game could be very, very low scoring. But I see Miami pulling it out, remaining unbeaten, and on top of this, they'll be in the top 4 in college football playoffs. They'll be if they beat Notre Dame, which I think they will. They will be the number 4 team in the college football playoff come next week. So as always, that ends our week. This has been the Benchwarmers podcast. I'm Casey Coggins, here with Alvin Hebert.
See y'all.
And Andrew Lara.
See you.
We'll see y'all next week.
We are bad.